An understatement to say that our next guest knows a lot about Connecticut. His father was one of the best-known radio and TV show hosts for decades, and he represented the state in Congress, later running for governor. Now he is an author with a new book and an expert on the history of gambling here in Connecticut. We welcome Robert Steele. And Robert, tell us a little bit about, I'm thinking Uncasville. Who had ever heard of Uncasville outside of maybe Uncasville before that happened and everything got built up in that area? Because you have, of course, Foxwoods, Mohegan Sun. What was the history of that area?
Well, the area was a quiet area, and Ledyard, for example, had about 14,000 people at the time. The casinos, of course, changed that dramatically.
What was the opposition like at first? I mean, because those casinos really are not that old, maybe 20 years or so now.
The casinos actually were built in 1992, so you're right. This is 21 years now since Foxwoods was open. I think the impact on the area was manyfold. The casinos created a pervasive gambling culture in the area. They sharply skewed the economy toward low-paying service jobs, and they resulted in a sharp spike in the number of gamblers seeking treatment for gambling addictions across the state of Connecticut.
So that really establishes an instant culture clash, I would think, in any state where you introduce something, especially on such a large scale.
Well, the culture clash took place in many ways. It was a clash between the residents and the tribe in Ledyard, for example. The tribe went from a handful of people to over 900. I remember well the first day of the opening of Foxwoods. It was a rainy, cold February day, and people came in from everywhere, from Maryland, from Maine, from Michigan. There were so many cars, they overwhelmed the roads. The garages weren't ready. People stopped and parked on the country roads and walked through the rain. The gambling was going so hot and heavy by 4 o'clock in the morning when the casino was supposed to close that they decided to keep it open, and they've never closed it since.
Well, and I would imagine that once the revenues start coming in, that acceptance starts to happen on some level. This had to have been very good in some regards for Connecticut, at least economically, bringing in dollars from out of state.
The out-of-state attraction was enormous. Over half of all the customers coming in were from out of state, mainly from New York and Massachusetts, but from all over New England and the Northeast. The casinos created some 20,000 casino jobs and began to send hundreds of millions of dollars a year to the state treasury in Hartford. That's beginning to change dramatically now, though.
Well, I was just going to ask you, too, because we're giving back some of that benefit, that advantage, with now Massachusetts and New York building casinos, or about to. And, you know, it's interesting because for years I've seen ads for Mohegan Sun behind home plate at Yankee Stadium during Yankees games. Sure. So, of course, we're drawing people up this way, and maybe some of that's going to start flowing back and staying in their home state.
Well, we're already seeing that. Connecticut's casino revenue, shared slot revenue that's going to the state of Connecticut, is already down over 32% in the last 6 years. It's down from about $430 million at its peak to under $300 million today. Layoffs have begun at the casinos. And you've now got casinos in Maine. You've got Massachusetts in the process of selecting sites for 3 major casinos plus a slots parlor.
So what's the future here in Connecticut? How worried should we be here?
The future looks bleak for the casinos, and the casino people themselves will tell you that. The projections are, we've had 19 straight months now of declines in slot revenue. And the projections are that will continue at least through 2016 when Massachusetts begins to open its casinos. So I think we've seen the best of the casinos, and we're now beginning to see more and more the downside.
Robert, before we go, tell me about your book, The Curse. Just published within the last 6 months or so.
Well, The Curse is a novel.
Okay.
It's set against the explosion of casino gambling in southeastern Connecticut during the 1990s. It begins with the Pequot War back in 1637. The story then jumps some 350 years as the Mohegan and Mashantucket Pequots reemerge to build the world's 2 biggest casinos. and a fictional Connecticut family becomes embroiled in a battle to stop a third casino that threatens the family's town and ancestral home.
So sort of like Titanic, it is a fictional tale based on a real-life event. We hope it has a happier ending.
Well, thanks very much.
Robert Steele, thank you so much for,
Good to talk
coming
to you.
in. Great to meet you, and please come back again. All right, for more information, you can go to WTNH.com, click on the On Air tab, and pull down to the Good Morning Connecticut weekend section.